I mean. Welcome to my MMA betting podcast. My name is Quinn. You can find me on Twitter at Orthodox1993. Today I am joined by Club and Sub's own John Stargaryan. You can find him on Twitter at MMA Fox. How's it going, man?
What's going on, dude? Pumped for this card.
Good to see you. I'm also joined by Shawn Orr. You can find him on Twitter at Shawn Orr. How you doing, man?
Yo, I am good.
Good to see you, man. And last but not least, we got Joe Suntsu on. You can find him on Twitter at Suntsu. What's up, Joe? How you doing, man?
Coming off a good week, looking to have a better one. Don't want to tie with so many people this time when I take down the first prize in the main one on DraftKings. But coming off a good week, up 15K for the week on DraftKings, so very happy.
That's awesome. Right. Hell yeah. Good job, man. Well, we got UFC 266 here. It's a pretty good card for a pay-per-view. I'm stoked. The bar down the street from my house is showing it for $5. So it's like, wow. Okay, that's sweet. So yeah, I'll be there doing that. Anyways, we got a lot of fights to break down, so we're just gonna get going with this. So the first matchup we have here, it's a matchup in the featherweight division with Jonathan Pierce taking on Omar Morales. John, I'll start with you. What do you got?
Yeah, I got nothing here, to be honest. I guess before I started looking into this fight, my view was Pierce was probably a pretty good bet. I've always been kind of a fan of Pierce's game. Very high volume striker, attempts a lot of takedowns, just basically the kind of style that if you're not going to put him out, he's going to do a very good job of winning minutes. And I still largely believe that even after taping it. My issue is really defensively. Pierce has been remarkably suspect at times. And like you saw it really kind of shine through against Jake Rosales and Joe Lozon in his first UFC fight. And like he did look a little bit better against Kai Kamaka, but seeing him now taking on Omar Morales, like I think Morales just has more tools that he could kind of punish those liabilities with. It's possible that he's just cleaned it up completely, in which case, he should be able to pace Morales and maybe out wrestle him, but I don't really trust it. And Morales has done a pretty good job of shutting down volume thus far in his career. And on the Morales side, it's just like I faded him with Shane Young, so it's like, can I really lay juice against Jonathan Pierce with him? I don't think so. I think he's the more technical fighter, and if it's a technical kickboxing match, he's going to win. But the same concerns I had going into the Young fight that he just doesn't let strikes go, I still have here against a guy who I think is a bit more reliable to push a pace. So, yeah, it's a pass for me at the moment.
Shawn, what do you got?
Yeah, so I put 1 unit on Pierce money line plus 135, but I have heard just before this podcast that the line is moving, so I'll probably cash out and try and hit the better line. To me, so we know that we know what Morales' game is at this point. He's 35. We know what he has to offer. He's not going to improve very much. Whereas with Pierce, I was personally very surprised by how noticeable the improvements were in the Kamaka fight, not just in his game, but primarily in his athleticism. He is training that fight ready, and we do know that fighters that are coming out of that camp are coming in looking the best they ever have. It's just been a very consistent pattern over the past few months. There were a few moments in the Kamaka fight where I was actually pretty shocked by how athletic Pierce is. He was doing like a single leg to a flying knee, just doing stuff that was very creative. Obviously, to John's point, he has an affinity for blocking punches with his face. Not very defensively sound. He is really heavy on his lead foot. So he is susceptible to the, I would say, strengths of Omar's game. But go back and watch that Shane Young fight, and you're going to see that he was getting pushed up against the cage pretty easily. He was walking back on his back foot. So I do expect Pierce to maybe struggle in the first round, trying to figure out his game. But then as the fight goes on, I think he's going to land some takedowns and win a decision.
Cool. Joe, what do you got?
Yeah, so I'm going to give Pierce a pass for the Lozon fight. I was actually at that fight, and oddly enough, when he lost in what I guess can be described as a flash KO, his mother was like actually standing adjacent to where I was sitting, and Pierce was walking by and she was trying to get his attention, and he was just like incredibly dejected that he like performed so poorly. And come on, like Joe Lozon in Boston. I mean, how could you not think that Lozon was going to just step up for that fight? I think Pierce is going to be incredibly popular. I know this is a betting show, but I think he's going to be very popular on DraftKings as well, because there's a little bit of line value correlated to his price. I'm with Shawn here. If I was going to bet this fight, I would probably look to bet Pierce, maybe watch the line. I was just checking him out on DK Sportsbook. He's plus 135 currently. Look, Morales is a good fighter. He had a good fight against Chikadze. I think I had him in that fight, but he is 35 years old. I'm not sure where he goes from here, especially in this weight class. So I think this should be a competitive fight. I think Pierce should look to take it to the ground if he can. I know Morales is generally pretty good at thwarting takedowns, but if Pierce can get this to the ground and maybe just survive, and get through the first round or the second round, then maybe, he takes a decision here. So I would be on Pierce, but I really don't see this fight finishing. I see it going to decision. Cool.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I have no bet here, but it's definitely a dog or pass for me. There's, with Morales, I had high hopes for him, and I still think that he has pretty good talent, but I don't like the weight class at featherweight for him. I think that he is definitely more suited for 145. I think his power translates. I mean, for 155, I think his power translates better up there. I think he's a little bit faster and sharper, not having to cut all the weight. With that being said, if this fight stays on the feet 15 minutes and he can defend the takedowns, I do think that he is the better technical striker. I think he's going to land the more impactful punches here. But, Pierce, he's not a bad fighter. Like the guy throws an obscene amount of volume. He'll come, he's aggressive. He will shoot a bunch of takedowns. Like you guys said, his physicality looked much better last fight. So yeah, I do think that Pierce is definitely a live dog here. I'm going to monitor the line. But I really don't like his striking defense. He doesn't move his head at all, blocks punches with his face. And that's just recipe for being KO'd. I don't see any reason to be playing the Morales money line at like, what is it, minus 155 now? I think if you're going to play him, take a prop, like take a KO prop or something like that. But for me right now, it's a pass. I think there's just a lot better spots on the card. So yeah, we move on to our second fight on the night. We've got Matthew Semelsberger taking on Martin Sano. I'll go first. Yeah, I have Semelsberger in a 2.5 unit parlay with Volk. It didn't take me much to play this line. We all kind of know why Sano is here in the UFC right now as a 4-2 fighter. He's getting a gift here, being best friends and training partners with Nick. That's pretty much the reason why he's on the card. I don't even know if they're going to bring him back for another. The guy is not talented at all. He's not UFC ready. At least Semelsberger, at least he's a fighter. At least he's an MMA fighter. I don't think Sano should be anywhere on this slate at all. I think you can. I think I parlayed him at like minus 435. I think you could even parlay him up to right now. To be honest with you, I think you could hit his inside the distance line. Yeah, I don't know why Sano's here other than being Nick's best friend. So it's an easy parlay piece for me. John, I know you got something here. So what do you got?
Yeah, I bet Semelsberger at minus 350. It's the first of the rare three big favorites I'm playing on this card, and Semelsberger is the first of them. I guess the first thing I'll say, what's kind of interesting to me is like I get the idea of having like a superstar's friend, be in the UFC. We saw it with Artem Lobov and Conor McGregor. My question is really, is Nick Diaz like in 2021 a superstar? I feel like most of the people who were watching in the Nick Diaz days are like not really the people that are like driving growth these days, I
mean, did he light up a press conference? Like, did they go crazy?
I'm just saying, like, I mean, Nate, I think has more cachet in like public households than Nick Diaz, and so it's a little weird to me that they're kind of giving Martin Sano the gift of being in the UFC, because I don't think the guy has a single UFC caliber tool. He's basically a Diaz who is bad at what they're good at and worse at everything else. And like he's got bad jiu-jitsu, he's a bad striker, he seems to have pretty bad cardio, and he's not much of a wrestler. You know, I've had my issues with Semi in the past, but he's a decent prospect, and I'm somewhat concerned about his grappling in the future, but I don't think this is the spot where it's going to get tested very much, to be honest. I think you could make a nice. I think you could make a reasonable case for Semmelsberger being 90% here, to be honest.
Yep. So I'm going to stop real quick. I want to give a shout out to Simpler Times beer. I found this at Trader Joe's for $5 a 6-pack. 6.2%, and it's fucking fantastic. Anyways, Shawn, what do you got here? Oh, you're on mute. There you go.
This was TJ's too. It's like $4.99.
Ah, Trader Joe's.
TJ's.
Fucking
hey.
love it. Fucking love TJ's.
Yeah, so I mean, this fight's barely worth talking about. It feels like, I don't know, Sano is like blackmailing Diaz or something, and that's the only reason he's fighting. Because like, you look at the Instagram, he's living in a yurt in the desert in Arizona. He hasn't fought in 4 years or 5 years. He hasn't won in 7 years. He has no UFC skills. Semmelsberger, I mean,
Wow. I think we just lost him.
Oh, shit. He'll come back.
All right.
I'll pick it up.
Away.
So if you want to really look at the narrative here, this guy has not won since Obama was president. Seriously. He has not won a fight since the Obama administration. Right? Now, if I was Semmelsberger, I would actually be pretty pissed off because this guy is coming in as a favor to the Diaz brothers. And who does the UFC pick to match him up against? But Matthew Semmelsberger. So I would look to get this guy out as quickly as possible. I don't bet like minus 350. Like I look for props if I'm going to bet. So I would actually, play this by finish. And maybe kind of put that in a parlay because Matt should really be pissed. Like the UFC thought so little of me that they matched me up against the favor to the Diaz brothers, a guy who hasn't won since, Obama, right? So like that is why I think this fight's going to finish inside the distance. This is why I think Matt finishes inside the distance. By the way, I'll give you guys a little bit of a tip. This is probably one of the strongest DraftKings plays for that very reason, if you buy into that narrative. So, I would say
you like him more than Merab and
I do. I think Marias has got a legitimate shot, but like we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I do think again, and if he doesn't, then he doesn't belong in the UFC. If he cannot put this guy away, he does not belong in the UFC.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
So Magic made one of the funniest comments underneath my showing us going live. Is this the Bernie Sanders convention? Shawn, do you have anything else you want to add to this fight?
No.
Okay. Sick. Let's move on. All right. We move on to exactly. We move on to the next fight. We got a late notice replacement in Cody Brundage taking on Nick Maximov. Shawn, I'll go with you. What do you got?
I played Brundage plus 220 when it opened. I don't know.
Great line.
I'm not super impressed with either guy. Brundage, I don't know. He kind of reminds me of Heinisch, the way he stands, the way he strikes, which is never a good thing, except for when you're fighting Maximov, who has no stand-up. You've got Maximov, who basically just shoots random takedowns. He just tries to spam takedowns. He's a top position control grappler, whereas Brundage has really good takedown defense from what I've seen. So I just think it was a pretty easy play. I think you're playing numbers at that point. I played 1.5 units. Not sure how much I'm going to keep because I usually will try and hit a line early and then kind of try and get a free play out of it. So we'll see. I think Brundage is pretty clearly the side. This is at middleweight, by the way. Both guys are moving down. However, Brundage has already fought at middleweight once. So Maximov has not fought at middleweight before. I thought this was at light heavyweight, but it's not. So I don't know. Maximov's cardio didn't look too hot in both fights. So yeah, I just think a lot favors Brundage here. I think he's worth a stab.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was kind of bummed out. My book didn't open up the Brundage line till plus 125, and I've been kind of honestly like debating on playing that. I think this, even though this is short notice for him, I'm not like too worried about the cardio. I think he does have the cardio advantage here, and he had a fight booked in 3 weeks, anyways. So he's been in camp, he's been training. I like the gym he's been training at. He's at Factory X Muay Thai. He's getting a lot of really good looks there. He's a tank. Like the guy is strong as fuck. He's super athletic. I think he's a pretty good grappler. I think he's a better striker than Maximov if he can defend the takedowns and this stays on the feet. I think he probably knocked Maximov out. The sample size on Maximov striking isn't very high. He's a grappler through and through. He fights in the SUG a lot. He fights some pretty high level grapplers, but that's under grappling contest rules. That's not MMA. It was kind of concerning watching his contender series fight, or no, it was his LFA fight. The 1 and 2 guy, that guy was pretty much all athlete, 0 skills, and he was pretty much able to defend most of the takedowns there. Grab the underhook, circle off the cage. Maximov had a really, really hard time controlling that dude there. And I think Brundage is significantly better wrestler and way better in the clinch than that dude. So yeah, that William Knight fight was a bit weird. He was single-handedly beating the shit out of Knight before he got. I think it was a elbow that Knight landed on him. But yeah, I kind of think in hindsight, if you look at the skills, both guys, I think that Brundage should technically be a favorite. That's why I'm kind of debating on playing him here. So that's why I said I think you got a great line at plus, what do you say, plus 205 or something like that. I think it's fantastic. So yeah, the pick is Brundage. I just don't really know what I'm going to do with it yet. What do you got here?
You're on mute, dude.
You're mute.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing here personally. I'll be honest, up at plus 185, plus 200, I had some interest in Brundage, but at the current line, not really. And I'll tell you why. I had Roberson against Maximov, which I know sounds crazy, but Carl Roberson's fought a lot of pretty stiff UFC competition, and the guys who had grounded him out were all guys who I thought were better grapplers than Maximov was. And so I was pretty confident, or not confident, but comfortable backing at the UFC vet there. With Brundage, it's I largely agree with a lot of your guys' points. I do think Brundage can probably at least get the fight back standing if he gets taken down, if not keep it standing. The thing is, I just don't really trust Brundage at all. He's a bull. He's very strong. He's a decent wrestler. I just kind of worry what happens if Maximov does get on top of him, though. I am more, Brundage could get on top of Maximov, but I doubt he's going to do too much. Whereas I think Maximov has pretty serious fight ending ability if he gets on top of Brundage here. And so, look, I obviously favor Brundage on the feet. I think there's reasons to like him. The thing is, it's you're dealing with 2 guys with 6 fights. I don't feel really, really confident either way. I would have felt confident there when you're talking about 30, 35% implied, but plus 115, that's not really doing it for me. So I'm passing.
Cool. Joe, what do you got?
Yeah. So by the way, I don't know if you guys heard, but Carl Roberson just got an endorsement deal with the Catholic Church. Yes. The rhythm method. He's going to be the poster child for the rhythm method because he's so good at pulling out. Yeah, so that's why Roberson is not in this card anymore. This is a Diaz fighter, Maximov, that I'm kind of interested. He's 23 years old. I want to see how he does, right? You made some great points, Quinn, about Factory X and Mark Montoya. I think that makes this an interesting fight, maybe more interesting than against Roberson, who he gets taken down by his pillow. So I I do want to kind of see this fight. I don't know. I'll probably have some shares of Cody just because, on DraftKings, just because, there are a lot of question marks about Maximov. I actually kind of liked Maximov against Roberson now, so I'll probably give him, a little bit of play here, but I'm not really sure what to do with this fight. I don't know how I would bet it. It might be worth watching and seeing if maybe there's a live betting opportunity, if there's any way to go on this fight after the first round. So, I guess if you pressured me for a pick, I'd probably stick with Maximov, but like you all made some good points about Cody, and I'm going to have to actually take a closer look.
Yeah, you don't have to bet this. No one has to. Quinn, you're muted.
All right, muted, my bad. Quinn. I'm good now. All right, we move on. Got Euros Medic taking on Jalen Turner. I guess I'll start here. So I have a unit on Turner at 105. I'm not like super confident in it, to be honest with you. I've gotten kind of I don't know. I've thought heavily about this bet all week. I'm happy that I'm getting Turner at plus money. The problem with there's just a lot of problems I have with Turner. I don't particularly like his level of competition up to this far. And I think he's a little bit soft. He's been knocked out like 4 times. That's one thing that Medic does well is the guy hits hard as fuck. And he's super aggressive. He'll come forward. He finished 2 different guys on the regionals with body shots. And it looked like, he landed one body shot, and it looked like the guys just completely died. So the dude could have unreal power. We don't know. I think he's only been out of the second round 1 time in his UFC career. I just need to see more from him in order to back him. Turner, he's got more process. I know more about him. I like his length. He is an underrated striker. He cashed me that plus 1,000 sub bet versus Turner, so I will love him forever. I think he has grappling upside here. Don't know a whole lot about Medic's ground game. I think you can play Turner ML. I think you can play Turner sub. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm eyeing it here. I guess I just need to see more of Medic outside of the second round 1 time in order for me to like back him as a favorite. So yeah, John, what do you got here?
Bro, outside of the second round, homie, try outside of the first round 1 time.
I thought he got him in the second round.
Out of the first 1 time. But
1 time. That's what I meant. Yeah.
For me, I don't have an issue with Euros Medic as a fighter per se. It's more number one, like you go to where he fought in Alaska FC, he basically fought like 0 competition at all there. He basically was dumpstering guys in the first round over and over. The one time he didn't, he was fighting a 1-4 dude who tried to grapple him and who basically ragdolled him for about 6 minutes before he knocked him out. What I will say, and then like even you go back to his UFC debut with Alon Cruz, Cruz basically died in the first exchange. What I will say is I do think Medic's form is like fairly nice. He's obviously fast. He obviously hits hard. He's a big dude for 55. And in this matchup, look, there's a lot I like about Turner, but Turner is there to be cracked for sure. Like there's a reason he was knocked out a couple times when he was young regionally. The guy is pretty tall and he stands straight up with his chin in the air pretty much at all times. And so, yeah, there's the credence to Medic. With that said, I think Medic is largely a massive unknown. In terms of process, like I actually don't hate Turner as a fighter. I think his process is like directionally correct. He's obviously a good athlete. I think offensively, his striking is pretty good. He does decent attritional work. He makes use of his length. Well, he doesn't make use of it well defensively, but he's got a good jab and he's good at using it. And then grappling, he's a decent grappler offensively. The real problem for me here, if I thought Turner was going to come out here and attempt 6-7 takedowns, I'd be on him huge in this spot. I just, the guy attempts just over 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. So, it's not a lot. But with that said, there's so many unknowns about Medic. And with Turner, the guy's got 6 UFC fights. He fought Matt Frivola and lost. But, that was a fun back and forth fight. And you may not think highly of Frivola, but Frivola is like a legit UFC guy, whereas we just haven't seen Medic really face that yet or really be tested at all and see how he reacts to adversity. And so, like, I'd be pretty much willing to go off Turner on that alone. And then you factor in that he's actually 2 years younger, and he's probably the first guy in Medic's career he's fighting who's bigger than him. Like, and not only is he bigger than him, I think he's 3 inches taller and has like 3 inches of reach on him as well.
Yeah, he's got 3-inch reach.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's a good spot for Turner. I think he should be favored. It's like if you were to look at a standard deviation for how this fight could go, like the more narrow one is Medic, who could probably peaks at like minus 150 here in any scenario where this fight takes place, whereas Turner has legit minus 300 upside. We'll learn something about Medic, hopefully, one way or another. But, you know, just in terms of, I mean, Turner's upside in this fight is just so much higher. So I'm on Turner for a couple units.
Cool. Great. Joe, what do you got?
Yeah, so Ozzy wants to know why we're getting plus money on Turner, and I will tell you why. And again, I'm not going to be as eloquent as Mr. Stargazian here, but you know, Turner's UFC victories are against Special Olympians. I mean, you know, he's beat nobody that's actually any good. Now, you can bash on Alaska FC, you can bash on the fact that, you know, this guy is got like, you know, doesn't have wins against good fighters. I think Elon Cruz is probably better than anyone that Turner's beat. Aside from that, he's done the right things, right? He's now training with at King's with Master Cordero. I mean, he's kind of, you know, moved from Anchorage, Alaska to Orange County, which is kind of a bit of an uptick. So I like what he's doing. I like that he's getting better training partners. I like that he switched camps. I like his aggression. With all that said, I understand, you know, the reticence to bet him. You know, I would be looking at several variations of like an underplay. You know, what my good friend Uncle Weezy calls a violence bet. You know, I would be looking at something like that in this.
Yeah, the under is not bad.
Yeah, I would be looking at something like that.
Under 2.5 now, minus 140. I've seen people on that. I definitely don't hate that at all.
Yeah, minus 140 to me gives you exposure to both sides, gives you exposure to a finish. I like that play. I am likely going to put that into some form of a parlay. Again, I play much more action on DraftKings than I do with wagering, but like I do dabble, so I will likely put that into some form of a parlay.
Cool. Shawn, what do you got?
You said it's 140 on under 2.5.
Yeah,
that's phenomenal.
I mean, that's you have to play that because that means I got hosed because I played fight doesn't go the distance minus 190 because you know, I know John is going to be talking a lot of shit about Alaska FC, but you know, Euros he had to fish for crabs to support his family, and he ran through the Alaskan scene, and now he's here in the UFC. And he's ready to take the belt and to put Alaska FC on the map. If I'm being completely honest here, we don't really know much about Medic. We know he's at a really good camp. We know that he's got power in his hands. We know he's got a kickboxing background. I don't like what I see from Turner defensively. That's my biggest eyebrow raiser here. I played Alon Cruz against Medic because I saw per his Instagram and interviews that he had his wrestling shoes on. I think a wrestler is really going to beat Medic here in the UFC, a wrestler and a good guy with jiu-jitsu, because Medic's ground game is absolutely atrocious as far as I'm concerned. Dalen does have really good jiu-jitsu, but he doesn't proactively wrestle, so that's why I'm not as bullish on him. But I do think he's the pre-fight side. However, I'll look to live at him if he survives Medic's like crazy Phil Baroni spam punch thing that he does on everybody. That's going to be my play. So fight doesn't go the distance, and then live bet Jalen if he survives.
Cool. Yeah, I definitely agree with the live bet option there. Okay, we move on. All right, we have a fun women's flyweight fight. Roxanne Modafferi taking on Talia Santos. John, I know you love this fight, so you can go first.
I wouldn't say I love it, but I do have a pretty strong opinion on it. I just don't really understand how you can trust Talia Santos, to be completely honest. And like, I mean, don't get me wrong. She obviously looked very good against Molly McCann and Jillian Robertson, but McCann is, I wouldn't say she's borderline a UFC fighter. Obviously, she has like some pace tools that'll keep her around for a while. But McCann against anybody who can grapple at all is pretty much helpless. The Jillian fight was very impressive. It's just that like Jillian kept pulling guard in that fight and getting stuck on bottom. And it's like, I think about it in context of this fight, and it's like, well, what would happen if Jillian just pulled guard against Roxy? Probably something pretty similar to that fight, to be completely honest. And then so you go back, and it's like the only other time anybody's ever really pushed Tyla is Mara Borella. She didn't look good there. Maybe it was a one-off. We don't really know. But I know I didn't really like how she looked when Borella got the body lock, and I didn't really like how she looked off her back. I didn't really like how she, was handling the grappling, going for an inverted triangle against Jillian. It's just there's little things here that bother me about Tyla's game. Now, obviously, she's a great athlete. She's a good striker. She's a decent grappler offensively. But, those kind of gaping holes, lose a fight to Borella like that and give up more than a round of control. I can't just say, oh, well, something wasn't right. Let's let it go. And so with Roxanne, look, we know what Roxanne is. She's a terrible striker. She's not a great wrestler, but she will try to wrestle. And if she can get on top of you, she's a very good top game, and she's very good at prioritizing control. I guess with this fight, it's just really kind of a race to top position, and whether or not Roxanne can win spots in the clinch. If it turns out Tyla is just too strong and athletic for her, then the line's going to look very justified. But like if I told you Roxy gets 2 to 3 takedowns in this fight, you're probably saying she's massively the side here. I don't really know what Tyla's game is. As I said, I don't put a ton of stock in the McCann and Robertson fights for various reasons. And so, yeah, I'm not like super, super bullish on Roxanne, but I think with the huge grappling questions around Tyla, a shot at plus 300 is pretty warranted.
Joe, what do you got?
Yeah, so look, I normally would agree. Like, given her complete lack of athleticism, Roxy has gotten about as much as she can from her talent, and she's got a good ground game. Although I do have 2 words for you guys: torn meniscus. That does not make the life of a person that's already lacking athleticism any easier. And that is my one concern. Like, I think she's 6.9K on DraftKings. And, everything like that is holy says, like, you got to give her a shot. Like, she's come through in some big opportunities. If it wasn't for the fact that, she is older than your average, 125er, and she's coming off of a torn meniscus 2 months ago that apparently caused her to cancel the fight. I mean, I don't know anything about like recovery timeframes for torn meniscuses, but I believe it's got to still be bothering her. It sucks. Okay, there you go. So that is my only concern, and I can see her getting beaten up pretty severely if the fight stays standing. So that's really my issue here. My issue is, the uncertainty of her health. I love Roxy to death. I think she's one of the coolest, fighters in the UFC. But I really, as much as I wouldn't bet this fight, I just, don't see her being competitive, especially if this stays standing.
Okay. Shawn, what do you got?
I mean, from what I understand, meniscus isn't the worst. Don't they just scope it and clean it out and then sew you back up? I know a lot of NFL players have done that and played 2 weeks later, but I will back up your sentiment in that Roxy is 39. I don't really trust her. I get what John is saying. It's kind of nice to fade these really juiced up favorites with a proven vet, but I just think Roxy's time has come. I don't think she's going to be able to deal with the physicality. So I just see a Santos dominant decision here. So overall for me, it's a pass. I might have put Santos. I think I did actually. I think I put Santos early in a parlay. I think when she was like minus like 300, I parlayed her with an early Semmelsberger, but it was literally just for like a unit, so nothing crazy. So for me, it's mostly a pass.
Yeah, I agree. Definite pass for me. You guys aligned a lot of good points. We know what Roxy is at this point, with her age, and everything, with her lack of athleticism, her lack of actually trying to like work on her hands throughout the years. Um, has been pretty frustrating. She obviously spends a lot of her fights being the better grappler. I'm just not sure if this is the spot to play her. I kind of wonder how that Barber fight would have played out if Barber hadn't hurt herself in that fight. I know that Roxy was having success. Yeah, exactly. I know that people are like, yes, she would have. I agree, and I know that like people are saying that like, Roxanne was like having success early. Like, yes, I will agree with that, but there's a pretty huge athleticism and age difference there. So yeah, I agree with you there, Shawn, and that's kind of where I am here with this fight. Like I really thought Talia was particularly impressive. I was on McMahon pretty big versus her, and that sucked ass. But she showed a lot of good things. Oh my god,
that sucks.
Yeah, and so I'm not going to be playing Roxy unless I like know for sure that she can get the fight to the ground, and I don't really think that she's going to be able to. And if she can't, she's going to get butchered on the feet. I don't mind the stab at the plus 300. The line's probably a bit wide. Like Roxy probably deserves a little bit more respect with what she's done in her career, but the fact of the matter is she's old. She's not very athletic. Talia is a strong up and comer. So yeah, I really just don't want any part of this fight, to be honest with you. So it's a pretty clear pass for me. Honestly, I hope Roxy pulls it off. I love her to death. I think she's fantastic. Fuck Talia for losing me money. So if Roxy gets on top of her and grinds, that'd be great. But yeah, we move on. We have I think it's our only heavyweight bout on the card? No. This is our first this is our first of two. So we've got Shamil Abdurrahimov taking on Chris Dawkins. I'll start first. I have a unit on Shamil at plus 169. Kind of surprised by all of the takes on Dawkins this week. I hear people saying that Shamil is going to get wiped out in the first round. There's a huge speed advantage here. There's a huge durability advantage, blah, blah, blah. John, we're talking in Discord with people, and John made a pretty good point earlier in the week. Shamil's never been dropped in the UFC. Every fight that he's lost, it's been by ground and pound. Like every KO fight he's lost. And if you go back and you watch, Shamil's had some pretty competitive matchups. Like he outstruck Harris. He fucked Tabira up. Like he completely outstruck him and then knocked him out. That left hook KO was fantastic. And he was dominating Derek Lewis. Like, I know everyone does, he was up 3 rounds to none versus Lewis. And that was a weird stoppage. Like Lewis was able to take down, and then he slid into mount and landed like 6 ground and pound shots. And they weren't nothing. Like Shamil didn't go out. He didn't do anything. Like, yeah, it was kind of like worrisome that Shamil didn't try to like shrimp out or hip out to try and change position. He kind of just gave up there. But I think a lot of that had to do with Shamil gassing. That was a pretty grindy pace fight. Like Lewis is pretty fucking hard to control on the mat. The guy's just huge. I think Shamil has some pretty big advantages here that people are just like disregarding because they just fucking love Dawkins. Shamil is, in my opinion, definitely the better wrestler. He's better in the clinch. He's probably going to have 25, 30 pounds here on Dawkins. And that's like another interesting thing that people aren't really saying. In Shamil's earlier career, he was weighing 255, 260. And I believe in his last fight, he weighed in at 235. I expect him to weigh a little bit heavier with the layoff now. I guess we'll find out tomorrow. But, with Dawkins is just like his whole entire game, he hasn't been outside of the first round ever really. And that's just for heavyweight. That's a pretty big concern. And, Shamil is a very good striker. Like he's not a bad striker at all. I don't this narrative that Shamil's just going to get washed in the first round. Like it makes absolutely zero sense to me, and when Shamil does land takedowns, he hunts for subs. I know Dawkins is a black belt, but so is Shamil. I think he'll do just fine on top. So yeah, plus 168, plus 169, he got up to plus 180, makes zero sense to me. Pretty much an auto bet for me. I bet it like a week and a half ago, I think. So yeah, that's pretty much like where I come from the fight. Like if Chris shows me something, that's great. But he's got to show me something. And Shamil has shown me that he's a fucking fighter. He's been fighting in the UFC. He's been fighting, for his entire career. He's a real martial artist. So that's where I come from it. Shawn, what do you say?
Yeah, it's an interesting fight. So I have no action on it right now, but the Shamil line is climbing in a way where I'm starting to get a little more interested in him. It's interesting stand-up dynamic because Shamil fights longer with his punches, whereas Dawkins likes to get in and throw really rapid combinations. He throws hooks actually kind of like Fedor Emelianenko, which is it does work at heavyweight. You can really surprise people by throwing 5, 6, 7 punch combinations. I do think Shamil is generally conservative enough to avoid a blitz like that. I don't think the ground game is actually going to come into play as much as you might think. I do think it's largely going to be standing. And I guess the big question mark here is what Dawkins looks like post round 1 as a full-time fighter, because he has been post round 1 in the past, and he was pretty gassed because he tried to finish somebody on regional scene. So he gassed himself out and he got totally dominated in the second round. So yeah, no action right now, but I do think Shamil is the right side. And I do think just keep an eye on it for a live bet too. I mean, we don't know what Dawkins is going to look like.
You're on mute, Quinn.
Sorry, I definitely agree on the live bet. John, what do you got here?
John, you're on mute.
not a ton to add, but like I guess my view
this is
like,
a professional show.
Yeah.
I'm leaving
my mute off. I'm just not turning it on.
I bet Dawkins in his debut fight against Porter plus 125. And I remember taping that fight and thinking when I decided to bet it, and it was very small. Like I taped Dawkins regionally, and like what I came away with was, okay, he's just a little tighter at everything than Porter is. He probably should be a slight favorite. But I wasn't super passionate about it. And my general thoughts on him were, yeah, he does some things for heavyweight. Like he might hang around in the UFC. And then, he comes in there. He knocks Porter out in the first round. That was cool. Comes into his next fight against Rodrigo Nascimento as a plus 240 underdog. Now, look, obviously that line was bad. And it's aged even worse with Nascimento's fight against Badeau. But even looking at that fight, basically the first left hook he throws, catches him on the chin, puts him down, finishes him. Then they give him, basically the prospect test to see if we can actually market you against Alexei Olenek, and he goes out there and unsurprisingly knocks him out in the first round. I think everybody kind of expected that. The bottom line is Olenek's fairly washed at this point. But I mean, what I'm getting at is I went into Dawkins coming into the UFC thinking this is an okay fighter who maybe has the tools for a heavyweight and the speed to hang around for a while, but didn't really see anything special. And I haven't really seen anything in the time since to change my mind on that. Don't get me wrong, I'm open to changing my mind, but until I actually see Dawkins, do something for an extended period of time, it's hard for me to get there. And Shamil, on the other hand, look, My biggest concern in this fight is Dawkins just pacing him and beating the volume. Like, he could knock him out, but yeah, like Quinn touched on, I do think Shamil is probably more durable than he's getting credit for. This is not Alexei Olenek here. And my issue is his volume, really. Like, Dawkins winning a volume-based decision wouldn't shock me. I guess the one reason I don't give too much credence to it is just like Shawn touched on, whenever we've seen Dawkins out of the first round, things have gotten pretty ugly. Maybe that's different now that he's lost the weight, he's full-time. But I do think, if you're telling me we're getting a range kickboxing fight for 15 minutes, how can I favor Chris Dawkins in that fight? Like, maybe he wins it and paces him. Maybe he knocks him out. But, like, Shamil Abdurakhimov has been, like, fighting forever. The guy's beaten real fighters. Chris Dawkins high rolls 3 straight KO1s, and now he's minus 200 against them. Like, Ozzy's commented in the chat, if I told you 13 months ago he'd be minus 200 over Shamil, everybody would have been like, shut the fuck up. Like, that's insane. It's just crazy. And I'm not saying he can't justify the price, but I've seen literally nothing in Dawkins' career to date that makes me say, he should be really a moderate favorite here, much less a big favorite. And so for me, like, I haven't bet it yet because I'm kind of hoping it's going to get – I thought it would get to plus 200. I'm kind of hoping it's going to get back to plus 180. But even if it doesn't, Shamil is basically a must bet for me, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Isn't the line trending up?
Agree. It's trending up.
I think it is.
Now it is, yeah.
It is now,
Yeah.
Finally, which I don't know. I'm pissed that I didn't wait, but, plus 168, that's not horrible.
So, guys, this narrative would be a lot easier to buy into if Shamil had fought at some point in the last 2 years, wasn't 40 years old, and hasn't pulled out of 5 straight fights.
A lot of those were COVID protocol.
You wonder how this guy has been supporting himself over the last 2 years. And I will tell you that Shamil's chest hairs are highly valued in weaves by follically challenged males.
Oh, man. Kadyrov funds his whole family. Kadyrov's got Shamil in his back pocket.
Yeah,
man.
so his
Shamil is fucking good.
His chest hairs, let me
tell
you. I think 1 out of every 5 males in the Asian Caucasus have a weave made out of chest hair from Shamil. But like, I got to pass. I would have to pass here. Look, I would agree with you if I felt that Shamil had not declined. Not fighting in 2 years is a pretty big sign. I love that he knocked out my better than compound interest fade, Chase Sherman. I love that. I was all over him for that fight, and he's generally very competitive in his fights. It's just, I need to be convinced that he hasn't, just kind of lost it, at 40 years old. And I guess that's not super old for a heavyweight, but I would tend to just pass on this fight.
Nothing wrong with that. I'm hoping we're right, and Dawkins isn't as good as everyone thinks. Anyways, we move on.
Heavyweight.
Huh?
Yeah.
What?
Speed changes things
it
at heavyweight, though. It's tricky. It makes things trickier.
Yep.
It does. And, Dawkins could just be absolutely fantastic. I had said a month ago that I thought that Kyle was a better fighter, and I don't know about that anymore. Anyways, we move on. I believe this starts the main card, doesn't it? I think so. We've got Dan Hooker taking on Nasrat Haqparast. John, I'll start with you. What do you got here?
Yeah, I have nothing here. I was interested. I'm mildly interested in Nasrat. I guess pre all this insane COVID visa stuff happening, and now and also when he was plus 150. Now the line's trending closer to evens, and also both guys are going to be getting there on Thursday night. It seems like, and that seems like the kind of thing I don't really want to get involved with because. You can try to cap it, and, I was comfortable betting Nasrat when that was Hooker being the case. Like, I couldn't really cap it effectively, but it's like, okay, there's that side at least, where this could happen. And now it's like Nasrat's there too, and so that just adds another wrench in the whole mix. In terms of the fight, I guess I've had a weird relationship with Dan Hooker over the years. I was very, very anti-Hooker on his run-up because he I felt like kind of high rolled a bunch of like quick finishes, and we didn't really know much about him. I bet Barboza big against him, but I eventually like kind of came around to him a little bit. I played him against DP, and he looked good in that fight for 2 rounds. And I guess, that's really what worries me here. Because I do think, like, you look at the metrics. I know not everybody loves stats for MMA, but like Nasrat's metrics are off the chart. He looks excellent in his wins. My big issue is look at the guys he's beating. Mark Jacasey is the best fighter he's beaten. And Jacasey's a decent fighter, but he's like nothing. He's not a top 15 fighter or even close to it. And the other guys he's beaten are just flat out scrubs. The one time he's gotten a real test, he got KO'd in 2 minutes and we learned nothing. I do have issues with Hooker just having no defense at all. Like, if it turned into a technical 15-minute kickboxing match, I do favor Nasrat, and that's why when he was plus 150, I was thinking about playing it. But, Hooker has a way of, he cuts off the cage well, and he has a way of, like, turning things into his kind of fight. It takes a really special kind of fighter, like a striker like Barboza, who knows how to measure distance and also does the kind of attritional damage necessary to keep you from marching forward on them. Whereas, Nasrat doesn't really do any attritional damage. It's kind of just straight up boxing with him for the most part. And so, yeah, I mean, look, I think it's a close fight. I think Nasrat's probably a cleaner, more technical striker, but Hooker's got much more significant experience. And like I said, he has a way of making fights a mess. Plus you add the visa stuff. I don't really have any interest in playing it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I have no play here. I was kind of considering playing Nasrat earlier in the week. A lot of my narrative in that came with Hooker coming in on Thursday and then having to cut the weight. That's literally insane. That's like mind blowing to me, thinking that you're gonna like perform well coming on Thursday. Like, you're not even gonna get over the jet lag by fight day. But yeah, then I hear that Nasrat's having visa issues. He's coming in like who the fuck knows when. And that's one concern for me. I've never been too high on Hooker. I think he has quite a bit of holes in his game. I think that everyone thought that he was a lot better than he actually is. But I do think he has some advantages here after diving pretty deep into the card on Nasrat. Like I said, I leaned to Nasrat earlier in the week, but I like Hooker's level of comp. He's faced pretty much elite fighters while Nasrat hasn't. I don't like how Nasrat dips his head when he's trying to avoid punches or when he is in the pocket ripping combinations. He'll dip it down. I could see a Hooker knee landing pretty easily. I also don't like how if you watch like earlier in his career, Nasrat, he landed a lot more leg kicks and went to the body. More his recent fights, he's pretty much a headhunter. Optics wise, I don't like that. I don't like that as a in general. You kick the legs, you rip the body to open up the head to open up your shots. If Nasrat's going to throw like 2 leg kicks the entire fight, I just really don't like that, and also him having his visa issues coming in. This entire fight just screams pass for me. But if I were to bet it, it would probably be dog or pass, but I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it. Shawn, what do you got here?
Yeah, so I think Hooker is a guy who's sort of performed above the level of what you would expect in his career, given who he is athletically and also his defensive issues. I think this fight really boils down to if Hooker cannot take punches anymore. And if I had to guess, I would say that Hooker can still take punches. Hooker has fought better southpaws than Nasrat. I mean, Poirier is a better southpaw than Nasrat. And that's no disrespect to Nasrat, because I actually do think Nasrat's hands are very clean. He has a lot of snap on them. He turns over on his punches really nicely. But he had competitive minutes with Garcia. No disrespect, because it does look like Garcia did show up to try and prove a point. But if I had to guess here, I would say that Hooker's depth to his game is going to come into play here. I think he's going to kick the legs. I think he's going to circle appropriately. I think he's going to land some straight punches and mix in a couple takedowns. I have a small amount of action on Hooker right now because I saw the line dip to, I think, minus 140. So I took a little bit on him. I think it's worthy of a play, given the weight cut issues with Nasrat, at the level of competition, and the fact that Hooker has such a broader diversity to his game. He's just really got to not get knocked out. That's it.
What is Hooker's sub? Ha!
It was pretty high.
Plus 1,200?
Yeah, it was pretty high.
Okay.
But I don't. I
You think he's going to take down Nasrat, though?
Yes.
I don't know, man.
He has a pretty big advantage. Not big advantage, but he's
on the mat.
I think he's going to mix in some wrestling. Yeah.
Plus,
he did against Poirier. Why wouldn't he against Nasrat if he did against Poirier?
Poirier's not a great wrestler, though, right? I mean, Nasrat's not easy to take down.
It's true.
He's been taken down a bunch.
In his first fight.
Yeah, but when has he faced really good wrestlers since?
Yeah, fair. It's fair.
Guys,
yeah, no.
Guys, you're missing the obvious. You're missing the obvious play on this fight. There's a stone cold.
Take it away, play. Joe.
Okay, so there's a stone cold block play on this fight, and that stone cold block play is that John's significant other is thrilled that he's anti-Hooker. That is the one stone cold block on this. I'm going to say that the visa issues are a wash here because both guys are getting in about the same time. So given that the visa issues are a wash, I would lean towards the more complete fighter. I don't know if I'm going to make a bet. I don't know how I'm going to play it in DraftKings, but I do give a lean here towards the more complete fighter. And in all seriousness, that is Dan Hooker. The way that Happeris got starched by Drew Dober did not inspire confidence. So I'll take Dan Hooker here. I'm going to say the visa issues wash out. I don't know traditionally. I don't know enough about either of these guys as to whether they've had troubles cutting weight in the past. I don't know if one fighter is, has more of an issue cutting weight versus the other. So I'm going to just say this all washes out. And
hasn't Nasrat missed weight before?
Give me
Nasrat
Hooker.
has had issues.
Okay, There you go. That makes me like Hooker even more.
I mean, Nasrat also been disciplined. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Look at his fucking body.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, you want to go with the guy that's not bricked up as the guy that's Yep. Agreed.
Hey, John, is it true that the missus is anti-Hooker?
Not everyone can have two wives.
Do you guys have a traditional household where you're anti-Hooker?
What's wrong with Hooker?
John, just so you guys know, John lives like 2 towns over from me. So.
I personally think everyone should have 2 husbands and 2 wives, depending on where you swing. More the merrier.
Wholeheartedly,
yeah,
I agree.
Exactly. Why the fuck not? All right.
Yeah, that's another pod.
Why settle?
Yeah.
All right, we move on. We have Marlon Moraes taking on Merab Dvalishvili. Joe, let's start with you. What do you got here, man?
Yeah, look, this is an interesting fight, right? So I think Moraes made a horrible mistake leaving New Jersey, right? And that's not just because I live in New Jersey and think it's a great place. I don't necessarily, I lived in California too, and, I love California, but, the training he was getting working with this camp in New Jersey was a great part of his success. When you do that and you are now training at some place called the fucking Armory, you're not getting the same level of training, right? He's only 33 years old. But he has fought really good fighters and he's got some really good wins. Like I love the machine. I love Davashvili. I've seen him fight before. I think he's kind of split his time between Sierra Longo and one of the gyms in one of the mega gyms in Vegas. So he's getting some good reps in. He's not a finisher. We know that, right? He's a rinse and repeat takedown artist, which, again, not that there's anything wrong with that. I just have to believe that if Moraes can get off the track and hit him with something, be it a kick, be it a punch, he's fought much better competition. If he's not totally washed, Moraes is live. And it's, maybe there's a betting opportunity here. Maybe if Moraes has a good first round and can't put Merab away, then, live bet Merab. But it's really tough to make a winner here. I mean, especially when you're playing DraftKings and Merab has been a god on DraftKings with all his takedowns and all his grappling points. I just, gotta believe that Moraes is live here, at this dog price. And if he's got any pride, he should show up for this fight.
Yeah. So I think this is a pretty binary fight, in my opinion. Maybe I'm not giving Moraes like enough credit, but he has not looked good since like before the Cahuta fight. He's getting up there in age. Merab is up and coming. Merab puts a fucking pace on you. Merab will rinse and repeat takedowns on you. He will land an absurd amount of strikes. Like I said, he'll put on a crazy pace on you. And like from what we've seen from Moraes, his last few fights, I personally think Moraes has one round to get him out of here before he dies, before he gasses out, before he gets grinded. I think Merab's striking has came quite a long way since we've first seen him. I think his fight IQ's come a long way since we've first seen him. I know there is a concern on one because we have seen Merab get wobbled, and Moraes does have a lot of power. I don't remember who was. I believe it was C who was saying it in the group chat. He made a really good point about how Moraes might have just had like some pretty insane opportunistic finishes in his career, leading him up to this point, and that makes like quite a bit of sense to me. But looking at this fight and looking at Moraes in his career right now, I don't see him doing well with Merab's style outside of round one. I think I have shout out to Danny Lags for getting this prop out on MMA Twitter. FanDuel was carrying Merab KO decision at -135. Fantastic line value if you didn't get Merab at opens at ease when it opened. I think I actually have 4 units total on that.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I fucked up. I asked both Johns to play it for me, and then I forgot to message you and tell you not to play it. And then I said, fuck it, whatever. So yeah, I technically have.
If you don't want it, I'll take it.
No, you're fine. I'll take it. But yeah, I think you can hedge the Merab. I think you can hedge it with Moraes round one plus 950. I think you could, if you want to get a little bit greedier, which I don't get why you would. I think you could play Moraes KO round one plus 1200. Don't get greedy. I would just play Moraes round one if you want to hedge. But yeah, pretty binary fight for me. My confidence in Merab increases by like 90% if this fight gets out of round one. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the lines that we were able to get there. I was kind of sweating. Fuck, I'm not going to be able to play this fight. So yeah, I think Merab rules. I think so many people just don't understand his game. Shawn, what do you got here? Oh, I guess John, what do you got here?
Yeah, I have a couple units on. I have a unit and a half on the Merab money line, and then a unit on that same -135. I guess I will say I do think it's kind of funny because I largely, to some extent, agree with what C had said about Marlon kind of hitting an ultimate meme 3 times in a row. But I do think though he does get dismissed a bit too out of hand. Like, look, Marlon has his issues. He's got bad cardio. He's very, very low volume. But he's a remarkably good technical striker, and he's extremely dangerous. And his game's been able to work at this level, even in extended fights, for the most part, because guys with his kind of finishing ability, people are just generally afraid to let it go against and go forward on. And so, if you're going to give him a low-paced kickboxing match, Marlon's as good as anybody. I guess where I kind of think that kind of changes here is you look at Marlon's career, and the guys that have really given him issues are Font, Sandhagen, Cejudo. All of them push a pace, and now you have Merab, who again isn't just going to push a pace, but Merab's not going to stand and give him a kickboxing match either. He's going to make it grimy, and I do sort of think round one, Moraes probably has a decent round. He might lose it, or I would still favor Merab in the round. But, when Moraes is fresh, his takedown defense is pretty on point. He's definitely the more dangerous striker. I just kind of think, though, over the course of the fight, the reality is with Merab, you have an elite doer of things. The guy's either throwing strikes or attempting takedowns pretty much at all times against a guy who has made a living doing not a whole lot. It's been Woodley-esque for bantamweight. And so it's just almost impossible for me to see Moraes winning minutes here. Look, he could always rock Merab twice and win a decision that way. That's certainly in play. I do think Merab still is a little bit reckless in the pocket striking and can occasionally have lazy entries, and he could get punished for that bad here. But other than that, it's hard for me to see Moraes winning a decision. And look, he can finish him early, but we just kind of know Moraes' gas tank's very predictable at this point. It's 5 to 7 minutes. And if he doesn't get Merab out of there in that period of time, he's most likely going to lose this fight. I just think, look, Moraes is a very skilled guy. I just think, given the dynamic and the stylistics, Merab should probably be a bigger favorite here.
Wow. 300%. All right, Shawn, what do you got?
Yeah, Moraes is a steroid guy who has very little cardio, and Merab is going to push a pace. It's going to be the same stuff that you guys have been saying. I think Merab is probably 70, 75% here as a round winner. One thing that gives me pause, though, is I do think that there's just been this constant line I've been hearing that Merab's stand-up looked so much improved versus Seaman. I rewatched that fight. I didn't think so. I thought it looked pretty shitty, to be honest with you. I think he makes some really bad decisions in the stand-up. I think he looks really tense. I think his timing is really bad. He got wobbled by a jab from Cody Stamann. What's going to happen if Moraes hits him with something? It's not going to be a jab, from Cody Stamann. So I just think people are being very, very, very bullish here, throwing him in parlays. And, I saw somebody with a 7-unit play on him earlier.
Oh, God.
And I don't know,
the unit's $10, big deal.
It's true. But to me, I do think there's a tiny, tiny bit of disrespect on Moraes here. And to me, I have no play. I think Quinn's line that Lags posted up earlier in the Discord that a lot of people got is a really good line. The -135 KO decision. I think that would have been the way to play Rob. And I think you got tremendous value. But right now where it's at, it's dogger pass. For me personally, it's dogger pass.
That's fair.
Yeah, fair play.
Yeah, I mean, so should we maybe bring C in from some all-night liquor store in Chicago and in the parking lot and see if he's got a take on this?
He's at the strip clubs. He's at the clubs.
Okay. Making it rain. Okay.
Yeah, making it rain. All right, guys, we move on.
Always.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with being at the clubs. I fucking love strippers. We move on. We got Jessica and Android taking on Cynthia Calvillo. John, I'll start with you. What do you got here?
Sorry. So, hot take. I like your catch, John. That's not the hot take, but I think Calvillo is going to handle Andrade. To be honest, well, I don't want to say I think she's going to handle her. I think she's being massively undervalued in this spot. It's funny because I've always been like probably one of the biggest supporters like in the community of Jessica Andrade and her game. You know, Andrade's game, raw physicality plus cardio plus, you know, the willingness to attempt takedowns that Andrade has goes so far in WMMA. You don't really need to be very technical, which is a good thing for Jessica Andrade because she's really not at all technical in anything that she does. And like, I've backed her over and over and over again because I feel like her physicality has been underrated. But I think it's being overrated now, to be honest. Like, if you look at pretty much every fight Jessica Andrade has been in, when she has been forced to stand at range for an extended period of time, she has gotten lit up. And you can go all the way back to the Claudia Gadelha fight, who lit her up for a round before she gassed the fuck out in that fight. Literally every time it happens, she gets pieced up a distance. Now, yeah, every now and then she lands a shot like the Carolina fight, puts her out, hurts Chuk to the body, and certainly she could do that to Calvillo. But I don't really think she's going to outstrike Calvillo at distance. Like, I really don't. I'm not like saying Calvillo is a good striker, but most of her shots are down the pipe and they're fairly tight. And I think that's really all you need with kind of Andrade's hook-heavy style. And, you know, which, again, in most fights wouldn't matter that much for Andrade because she always has the fallback option of, okay, I'm going to go push you against the fence and just slam you on your head 10 times in a row. But here, I don't really think Cynthia is the kind of girl that she wants to be getting into grappling exchanges with. I honestly think Cynthia is the better grappler by a decent amount. Now, I'm not saying Cynthia can necessarily control her on the mat or control her for an extended period. Andrade does have quite a good get-up game. But I do think if you do see extended grappling exchanges, if someone's going to be getting near finishes in terms of submissions, it's clearly in Cynthia's favor there. What I do worry about from the Calvillo perspective is, you know, like I mentioned, Andrade is incredibly physically powerful. Her getting her into the clinch and kind of beating her up there, getting 6-7 minutes control on the fence, I do think is a live outcome. And just, you know, even in terms of the striking, while I think Calvillo is the more technical striker and is going to have success on the feet, Andrade is going to throw a fuckload of punches no matter what, even if she's getting lit up. And so she's going to land and possibly or probably land harder. So that's a concern as well. And so, like, I really can't. I would say I have Andrade like 50 to 55%, but like Calvillo plus 225 is crazy to me. So I have 2 units on her there. I think it's a very good spot for her, to be honest.
Joe, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm really curious to ask John, like, what community he's actually representing in support of Andrade. Look, I want to give Calvillo a shot here. I really do. Like, you know, she's 34 years old. I just did not like the way she fought Chukagian. I did not think that was a very smart fight against Chukagian. I don't know if I'm blaming her or her coaches. You know, based on that fight,
Chuk's good, dude.
What?
Chuk's good. She's a good kickboxer.
Yeah, she's good. And she got starched by Andrade. As a matter of fact, that was Andrade's only win in her last 5 fights was against Chuk, right? Okay. And Chuk has got a pretty decent fight IQ. I loved what she did to Shevchenko. Anyway, like, so the other Shevchenko, you know, so I have a bad feeling for Calvillo here. I think that Andrade is way too strong for her, especially at 125. Like, if you thought she was strong at 115, she's really going to be strong at 125. And, you know, again, I'm second time in the podcast, I'm quoting my boy Uncle Weezy. You know, you've got to support a fighter who has a haircut that you could set your watch by, which is, you know, Andrade's haircut there. I really do think that she is going to muscle Calvillo. And if not, Calvillo is just going to be on her motor the entire 15 minutes, in which case, you know, it's not going to be a great look for the judges because she's going to be fighting off her back foot and Andrade is going to be chasing her around and landing punches. I don't necessarily agree with you, John, that, like, she's going to have any distinct advantage if the fight gets to the ground. I think Andrade is pretty good on the ground. That Shevchenko fight, the Chev fight aside, which she did not really show anything. So as much as I really want to give Calvillo a shot, especially on DraftKings, I gotta pick Andrade as the winner here.
Okay, Shawn, what do you got?
Yeah, I think if I had to pick a winner, I think it is going to be Andrade. However, I do have money on Calvillo decision. I think it was plus 400. And then I have goes the distance, which the line is absurd. I think it's like minus 110 was what I got. So, yeah, I don't necessarily think that Calvillo is going to be the stronger grappler. I also do think that one knock against her is that she basically just tries to throw body head, and she's pretty susceptible to hooks. However, her defense has been elite in her UFC run, so I got to give her some credit. And I do also got to knock down Andrade a couple points for making millions off OnlyFans. So who knows where her head is at right now.
She's a businesswoman.
I mean, hey, no disrespect. It's just once you start making money outside the UFC, it's really easy to not be looking at the UFC as your way to make money. Yeah, I think that I'm predicting that Andrade is going to steal some cards here with some big moments, whether it be slams or bigger shots. I think that her Mike Tyson bobbing her head constantly thing that she's been doing in her fights will play well. She's done that her last two fights. I think it's going to play well here. However, I think you'd be a fool to not take the upside of plus 400 Calvillo decision. So I've got small there, and I've got goes the distance. Easy plays.
Yeah, I definitely don't mind the Calvillo decision at the line. I personally have goes the distance. I got minus 110 for 1 unit. Kind of
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Kind of regret not going more heavy on it. I played it before I actually taped it, just because I was like, that doesn't make any sense. This is 125. Women's flyweight, like the fights go the distance more often than not at a pretty high clip at 125, and you're getting minus 110 from that. Also, if you think about it, Calvillo, she's pretty durable. She's eaten some bombs in the past. She ate some absolute bombs from Rodriguez. She's not getting subbed off her back from an Andre. Maybe a slam KO, I guess, is in order, but I think we're going to see a lot of clinching. I think we're going to see an Andre land some takedowns here. I don't like how Calvillo, in my opinion, is pretty easy to back up against the cage, put her on the back foot. That's pretty much what an Andre is good at on the feet, is walking forward and throwing bombs. So yeah, the play for me is definitely an Andre, but I personally took goes the distance at minus 110. Like Shawn said, I thought that line was pretty eye-opening to me when it came out. I was actually expecting that to get steamed, and it really hasn't too much, which is kind of interesting.
No, you can still play it.
Yeah, I think you can still play it too. So yeah, I was pretty happy to get that. I think that's kind of the way to go in this fight. I like Calvillo, cash me underdog money versus I thought that was a stupid line, but this is a different fight in my opinion. And I do think Andre has advantages, especially at 125 here with physicality. So yeah, I think goes the distance is the play here. I think you can still hit it, just like Shawn said. I think an Andre decision plus 120 is kind of interesting too. I believe that's what it's at. I think you could probably hit that
at that point.
Yeah, I would just go the distance too. But if you want some plus money, I think you could hit that as well. But yeah, I really like that goes the distance, and I think Andrew's going to win a decision here. So we move on. We have the last heavyweight fight. We've got Curtis Blades taking on Jarizo Rosenstruck. Sean, what do you got here?
Nothing. I mean, I lost like $1,000 on Blades last time. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's favored or pass for me. I'm just gonna pass. I think that Rosenstruck sucks. I think that if he gets taken down.
Oh, there is.
He was really disappointed.
He was not stoked. All right, John. We'll go back to him when he gets back.
Well, I also lost about 0.3 ETH on Blades in his last fight against Derek Lewis.
All right, actually, do you want to have him finish? He just. You want to finish, Sean?
Yeah, whatever. This thing's giving me fits tonight for some reason. So yeah, I don't know. I think that it's pretty much big punch or get wrestle fucked. I don't know. God bless anybody who puts money on this fight, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe Blades 2-3. I don't know. Maybe hopefully Blades gets dropped in round 1 and you can live bet. I don't know. This fight is fucking pointless to bet.
I don't want to see Blades get dropped
shit, dude. Like,
dropping around when you live bet him and then he mauls.
Dude, honestly, fuck betting Blades after that
You
last
love
fight.
Blades!
But I love Blades and I love his game, but like, man, his entries leave him open. I think it's favored or pass, so I'll pass it on to the next person.
All right. What do you got, Joe?
Yeah, look, I think, let's hope he exhibits better fight IQ. Because one thing that Biggie does have is that touch of death. I want to say that he will have better fight IQ here, and he will, wrestle fuck, Biggie Boy, which I think is his surest path to victory, and not do something stupid like charge in blindly and get uppercutted. So look, I don't necessarily see a bet on this fight, but like I'm going to pick Blades to win.
Okay. John, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, Curtis Blades, I think a lot of people have been through that. He's like that crazy girl you date when you're really young that you keep going back to, and eventually you become crazy because you start to believe that the next time she won't be crazy anymore. I have always believed that Curtis Blades is the truth. However, he has let me down over and over and over again. I made an impassioned case for him against Derek Lewis about how that fight wouldn't be at space for more than 4 to 5 minutes over 25, and he spent the next 8 minutes standing with Lewis before he got iced. With all that said, like I said, he's like that crazy girl because I'm going back to the well again here. I played him small this time, unlike against Lewis where I was huge on him. I only risked a unit on him at about minus 300. But at the end of the day, kind of like what Sean said, I think we all know it. It's like really, can Rosenstruck land a counter and put him out early or not? I mean, and obviously he can. But again, it comes down to what percentage of the time can you actually say that happens. And in my mind, it's just like, Blades either gets iced very, very fast or he is going to beat the fucking piss out of him until he's finished. And I lean the latter happening way more often than the former. In my head, I said a Rosenstruck KO is probably 20%. That's probably giving a little too much credence to it, but I'm scarred enough from Blades that I'm keeping it low. I'm just risking a unit on it. But at the end of the day, like, Blades is a good fucking wrestler who wrestles aggressively at heavyweight against the guy that can't grapple. This should not be hard work. I think he should be like -6, -700. Honestly, we'll see what happens. I am officially writing him off if he gets iced here, but we're going back for Curtis Blades.
Yeah, I think what's more interesting is John intimating at the level of strange that he scored in his younger days. I think John got less action than like a can of shaving cream in Quinn's medicine cabinet.
I mean, hey, I shave a couple times a week.
Okay.
Little peach fuzz.
Which week is that? Okay.
Leap year.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm looking at these props right now. I completely agree with John. If Blades doesn't fucking finish this fight on the mat, he's completely dead to me. We've seen Rosenstruck. We've seen his ground game. We know what he's like. I will never fucking forgive Overeem for not fucking pounding him out on the mat. I don't understand how that fight played out the way it did. I'm still like, I remember I think I had like 4 or 5 units on Fight Doesn't Go the Distance in that fight, and it cashed within 2 seconds.
Nice.
Like it cashed in 2 seconds. I was fucking pissed. I was drunk as shit, screaming at the TV. So yeah, that was interesting. Going into this matchup, looking at Blade's last fight, like everyone said, stupid fight IQ. That's a pretty easy fight for you, in my opinion. Like if they run that back, hopefully Blades isn't an idiot. He just grinds. But yeah, like John said, if Blades can get on top, he's gonna fucking ruin Rosenstruck. He's gonna fucking ground and pound him. He's gonna pass. He's gonna go for subs. I think, and I'm looking at these props right now because I've been at work all day. I haven't really seen them. Under 2.5, minus 140. Blades by TKO is up to plus 185. Blades submission, you can get at plus 1,000 on some books. It actually got smashed on dimes. It's plus 550 on dimes. Blades inside the distance, you can get as high as plus 130. Honestly, all of those might hit. Like all of those. I don't understand how this plus 185 on Blades KO. Like he's plus 120 to KO everywhere else. That's pretty interesting to me. I'm definitely gonna look at some of these props when we get off of this air. But yeah, like I said, if Blades doesn't kill this motherfucker, he's just a complete idiot. So yeah, we move on. We gotta fight. We got Nick Diaz taking on Robbie Lawler. Joe, I will start with you. What do you got, man?
Wow, it's interesting you start with me on this fight because it's like one that I really don't care about at all. I mean, you've got Diaz that's kind of coming back for a paycheck in all likelihood, who decided he didn't want to cut weight, who discovered alcohol in his early 30s because apparently he didn't drink. He didn't drink before he retired, is what I heard. Apparently there was an interview with like Jake Shields, and props to Cody for Dog or Pass. Like he was talking about how he never drank while he was active in the ring, and he only started developing bad habits once he quote unquote went into retirement. Now he's coming back, and the week before the fight he decides he doesn't want to cut to 170, so now the fight's at 185. I'd love to know if Robbie got something for that. Hopefully he did. Get something for that. Would you
want to cut that if you were Nick? Would you want to cut down to 170?
No, you're right. Look, and he has all the leverage here, right? Like he's the draw, not Lawler, right? It's the Diaz mystique, right? They'll show up with their entourage, and I'm great. I bet the ceremonial weigh-ins are going to be very entertaining. But do I really care? Do I really care about the fight, though? No. I mean, I have no desire to see this fight. It's hard for me to have a vested rooting interest in the fight. I don't know. I mean, Diaz, Lawler, do I really care? I mean, is Diaz going to take Lawler down? I mean, that's probably his path to victory. I think that Lawler beats him if the fight stays standing. I think he's, got more relevant, stand up, and he's actually fought, in the last eon, as opposed to Diaz. So I guess if I had to pick, I'd probably pick Lawler, unless I thought Diaz was going to, institute a wrestling plan here, which I'm not confident of. But I don't see Diaz's hand speed, getting any quicker. So I guess I'll take Lawler here, but it's really a fight I don't care all that much about.
Cool. John, what do you got? Oh, you're on mute.
In terms of, I don't have a bet, at least not at the moment, but I do kind of skew on the, like when I was going to break down this fight, the first thing I thought before I went into it was I'll almost definitely have a bet on Robbie Lawler, just because Diaz has been off for so long. We know all he's been doing is partying. And then you go back and like you go through it and it's like, fuck. So like the angle on Lawler is like Diaz is beyond shot and he hasn't been training and all this other shit. But like watching Lawler, it's like, the thing is, what kind of edge do I have even if Diaz is shot? Because I think Robbie is really shot. Like you look back, I will give him some credence that the Magny fight probably wasn't a great matchup because Magny grappled him. Same with the Colby fight. But even in moments in those fights, like you watch him in Colby and, when they're standing, he's not even really trying to return strikes. And that's a concern. We could go all the way back to the Condit fight like 5 or 6 years ago, and he did not look good. He has not looked good since the second Rory fight. That's the reality. And so, I think Robbie's pretty shot. And on the other hand, Diaz is a bit more of a question mark. There's certainly a large chance he is shot. And if that is the case, it's like, well, who's less shot that's going to win this fight? And it's like, how do you really play that game? But what I can say is Diaz's general style and approach to fights is such, in particular in the stand-up, that it's going to be hard unless something is drastically changed. And it might have, admittedly, Diaz looking a little hefty in that shadow boxing video gave me a lot of pause on like what I was thinking in terms of this fight. But I do largely think Nick Diaz's style is a fairly good foil for Robbie's style. I think, I know Robbie shot. I think Nick's probably shot, but I don't have a bet on it. But if it goes to like plus 150, it's like I feel like I have to bet Diaz just because I don't really think this isn't Nick Diaz coming back off 5 years and fighting prime Robbie Lawler. It's Nick Diaz coming back off 5 years and fighting Robbie Lawler's corpse, really. And so, I guess I lean Diaz at the money line personally. I don't know a bet. Like I said, plus 150, I'd take the shot. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a mess and it's going to be gross.
Yeah, no bet for me. I completely agree with everything that you said, John. You and I have talked about it quite a bit. The line movement is funny. Diaz has one interview. He's shadow boxing, which if you're a Diaz fan and you've watched Diaz throughout the years, he looks like shit every time he shadow boxes. That's not something that's different about him or it's going to change. Yeah, there's a lot of red flags on him. Obviously, he's old. He's been drinking for 6 years. He hasn't been doing shit. But if you look at this fight, he has the entire style to break Lawler. He beat him once. I think he can do it again here. I think he can overwhelm him with strikes later as the fight goes on. People are bringing in this narrative about how Lawler at least has fights, blah, blah, blah. He's been active. When has Lawler looked good? I'm pretty sure I was on him some sort of prop versus Colby, and he looked like he had no motivation. He had nothing. Colby's not a good striker. Colby is an attritional volume striker. He's not a very good striker at all. He has zero power in his punches, and yet Lawler couldn't counter with anything. He had no motivation to clinch or do anything or counter with his strikes at all. Colby just lit his face up for 5 rounds. It was extremely concerning for me. And what does Nick have to lose coming in here and doing the whole Nick style? You know what I mean? I think this is if you look at this matchup stylistically, I think it's a decent fight for him coming back. Do I trust him at all? No. But like John said, he's up to plus 130, plus 132 now. That interests me a little bit. Hopefully money rains in on Lawler tomorrow and Saturday morning, Because if Diaz gets up, like if he gets to plus 140, plus 145, plus 150, I'm gonna lay a unit on him, and I wouldn't have zero fucking regrets.
Now, come on, you know the money's going to come in late on Diaz.
I think it. No, I mean on Lawler.
On Diaz, it's going to come in late on Diaz.
If it does, I'm playing Diaz.
It always does. It always does. You know, they're going to be in Vegas. His drunk entourage is going to be throwing money down on him. It's going to create a feeding frenzy. And people are going to start just sentimentally betting on Diaz.
You know, and I might have a little bit of bias here. If you guys know, I am fucking Diaz Bros 209 for life. I fucking love those dudes. But yeah, I'm gonna wait and see how this line plays out.
Aren't they? Isn't he a vegan too? Like if I couldn't hate him enough already, the guy's a vegan. Okay.
I mean, is he? Did you guys see that video?
No. He is a vegan now?
Like, that's okay.
Is he not a vegan or is he?
I think he is a vegan.
I heard
Nate
that
is
too,
definitely a vegan.
Nate is? Good man. Smart
Nate is definitely a vegan.
Shawn, what do you got?
Yeah, so what a dumb fight. But but you know, when Robbie was hanging out at minus 110, and I posted something on Twitter. Anybody who's been following Nick, I posted this like a week ago. Nick on Snapchat for the past few years knows what he's been up to. He's been drinking and clubbing. And that doesn't mean he's been training. So look at Nick's wins. I'm a massive Diaz fan. Everybody who knows me. I fucking love Nate. I love Nick. But look at Nick's wins. Just remove the last couple fights, the George St. Pierre, the Anderson Silva. Just look at who he's fought and just look at the way he did it.
Oh no.
Yeah, we need to pitch in and get him better internet connection.
It's usually absolutely solid. Should we wait a couple seconds?
It's your call. It's your podcast.
I mean, we're an hour and 36 minutes in.
So just keep going.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Nope. He's back. All right.
This thing's giving me fits tonight, man. So, yeah, I don't know. I played the over 2.5 when it opened. It was like minus 160, and then I played it again at minus 175.
That's a great line.
I do think that Robbie. I think Robbie's the better boxer. Crazy shocker! Wow, somebody would say that, but like, I love Nick, but like his defense fucking sucks. Look at what he did in his previous fights. He basically, during an era where all of the strength and conditioning and everything was geared towards being an explosive right-hand dominant boxer wrestler, what Nick did was he ran triathlons and he did volume punching, and he would just eat your 1 or 2 right hands every 30 seconds, and then he would give you back 5 to 10 punches. That was Nick's entire strategy. Robbie Lawler does not fight like that. Robbie Lawler is actually pretty defensively sound. The metrics won't show you that, but like he does actually slip with a lot of his punches. The only question mark is, like John said, is he going to fire back? I think in this instance he is going to fire back because it's going to be a largely stand-up fight, whereas Robbie has had to deal with wrestlers and maybe some people he didn't want to fight because they were above his level at this point. Whereas Nick is just, as far as I'm concerned, a guy off the street who fought fucking 6 or 7 years ago, who's going against a guy who was previously the champ. I mean,
whoa.
All right. We're going to move on here. God damn it. I really hate to cut him off. That's like fucked. But
just go.
We got to move on. All right. Co-main, we got Valentina Shevchenko taking on Lauren Murphy. John, what do you got?
Nothing. No real takes here. I mean, I think we're all going to say some version of the same thing. Valentina's better everywhere. I mean, is the line a little wide? Maybe at minus 2,000. I mean, you're talking about like a 96, 97% implied win there. Maybe not that high, but I'd have to do the math. But yeah, I mean, I think Valentina wins it however she wants. I don't even like anything in terms of props just because it's like, Valentina ITD may be good minus 230, but she still doesn't have a very aggressive style, right? And in terms of like individual finish props, well, I would skew towards Valentina KO, except if she decides that she wants to submit Murphy, she probably can. And so saying to myself, okay, I'm going to lay the KO line, and then she just decides to take Murphy's back or arm triangler or whatever, would make me sick. I'm just passing on it. This is a good one to go up, get a beer, maybe take a walk the dog before the main event. Not a lot of interest there.
Yep, agree 100%. Why the fuck is Lauren Murphy here? Why is she in this spot? Like, if you look at the division, like, it's so bad when you have Lauren Murphy fighting for the fucking title. Like, that's just not good. I wish we had better opponents for Valentina. I personally think Valentina is one of the best fighters. Like, she's probably the best women's fighter in the world, especially at 125. She's absolutely fantastic. Lauren Murphy is absolutely nothing. She's been nothing since the Ultimate Fighter, and I don't mean to talk shit on her, but, Eddie called her to a T-mat. I don't see it changing any differently here. I think she relies on her aggression as opposed to actually being good to winning fights. I see a lot of people on the over, which is lined at 2.5. And I was kind of like, maybe. But to be honest with you, Valentina will care when she wants. And that's just how it is. That's just how it's going to be. Like, there's an insane speed advantage on the feet. There's an insane advantage on the mat here. So I'm not bullish on the 2.5 at all. Yeah, I'm just going to watch it. I don't really think personally don't really see a good angle here at all. Because like John said, you could play the minus 105 sub prop. I'm a KO prop, but what if she takes it down on sub? You know what I mean? So I think all that's live here. So it's a pass for me. Shawn, what do you got?
Yeah, it's a pass.
Cool. Nothing else you want to say?
What's the point?
All right.
I mean, it's a point.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a pass.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we move on. We have the main event. We have Alexander Volkanovski taking on Brian Ortega. Start here. So I have an uncomfortable amount of money on Volkanovski here. If you guys know, my 5-unit runs this year have not been good. So that's been what's kind of been making me hesitant on playing this line. But I think Volk has Ortega covered everywhere. I think Volk is one of the best fighters in the world, especially at featherweight. He's elite everywhere. His metrics are absolutely fantastic. They're elite. His stats are elite. Like, you can't get any better than Volk's stats if you actually dig into them. Like, they're over 6 significant strikes landed per minute at a 55% accuracy is insane. 60% striking defense. While averaging over 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. Like, that's pretty elite stats. And he's just getting better. And he's been in some wars. I think his fight with Chad Mendes is one of my favorite fights of all time. I absolutely love how he just broke Chad down and then killed him at the end. Like Volk is good. He can adapt to any fighter. Like he's elite at game planning. Like he's literally elite. Him shutting down Aldo, him picking apart Mendes, him adjusting and beating Max twice. Like, like the second fight was fucking close, and then he goes and he attempts 6 takedowns in the 5th round. I mean, that's the guy knows how to win fights. On top of him just being absolutely ripped, I think he deserves a minus 230 line here. I got in at like I think I got in at minus 155. What?
Did you just cap him as absolutely ripped?
No. But he is. So yeah, that was a pretty easy play for me. I have him in a parlay with Semlisberger at -103. I think that cashes pretty easily. Hopefully my max bet streak pays off here because I'm fucking over it. Shawn, what do you got here?
Yeah, so I haven't been a huge Volkanovski supporter. However, I've been much more or less a Brian Ortega supporter. I have 3 units Volkanovski at -148. I got that line. I think that was the lowest point it's gone so far. Yeah, I just think he's a much better striker. I just think he's a better athlete. I think he has more heart. I think he has a better
Whoops.
All right.
Hey, well, I will tell you that since you didn't ask, Quinn, I did have a play on the last fight.
I skipped you?
Yeah, you did. That's okay. I had to. You all want to see a dead body screen share up.
I wasn't sure what that was.
Yeah, that's okay.
My bad.
Yeah, so I did have a play on the last fight. I have Val to win by any finish -250, and I had that in a parlay with the under 2.5 rounds in the Medic fight, and Semlisberger wins by any finish. So that's -250.
Like
yeah, -250. Val wins by any finish. -190. Semlisberger wins by any finish, and under 2.5 rounds in a Medic fight. That's +266. I don't do units. I'm old school. I bet $376 to win 1,000.
Wait! You said all those together is +276.
+266. So I bet 376 to win 1,000. That's the bet I made. That's my only bet so far. So as it relates to this fight, I don't know. Shawn dropped off, so he can kind of pick it up.
Yeah. Sorry, fuck my phone or whatever's going on tonight. But yeah, I don't know. I think that Ortega. I don't know, man. I don't believe it. I don't believe the Korean Zombie striking. Oh, he's this new guy who could just totally out kickbox Volkanovski. I mean, the looks that Volkanovski gave Max are very technical. So he was doing things to Max that obviously no.
Is he trying to do this from his phone? Is that the issue?
Yeah, I think so. He used his laptop last time. Just go for it.
Okay, so look, I like Volk here. I mean, I think it was an impressive win against the Korean Zombie. I think Ortega is game, but he took a hellacious beating from Max. Look, again, this is a betting pod and not a DraftKings pod, but I would certainly say that you should probably have a few shares of Ortega, and it's not the worst stack in the world. But I do like Volkanovski here. He would be my pick. I haven't bet it yet. I'm going to probably wait to see how my night goes, especially if this parlay cashes. I might throw some of that money on Volkanovski in the main, but that would be my pick.
Cool. All right, Shawn.
I love it.
Let's split it up.
Yeah, so mine, I'll keep it short. Volk, good. Ortega, okay. So Volk is going to win. So I'll get cut off and it'll have me reload. But that's basically my analysis. Volk is a better striker. Ortega is sub or bust for me personally.
Yeah, I just really want to know what Volkanovski – I'm sorry, not Volkanovski. I want to know what Ortega thinks about Tracy Cortez's takedown defense.
We don't talk about Tracy Cortez on this podcast.
Oh, really? You're not a Tracy Cortez truther or what?
Oh, I am a Tracy Cortez fucking simp, and Brian ruined that.
Oh. Okay.
Well, yeah, I like Volk.
They have some good chemistry from what I.
He got cut off.
Yeah.
I also like Volk. I won't go too much further with it. Just to say, I think where Shawn was going before he got cut off the first time was right. You look at what Volk did with Max. Volk was actually out technically Max in the pocket, on the outside, everywhere, both times they fought. You go back to Max Ortega and, you talk to most serious bettors and they would say Max as a dog against Ortega is one of the best bets in the last few years. And yet I'm supposed to sit here and look at Volk minus 170 and not be like, okay, I'm going to take him. Look, I'm a little concerned about the line. It's worrying to me just because, we just saw Volk outstrike Max twice in back-to-back fights, and we saw the Max Ortega fight, and yet, the line is where it is. But on the other hand, Ortega closes a favorite against Max. The market clearly overvalues him. I'm not going to say what he did against Zombie wasn't impressive, but what I will say is I saw a lot of takes that night and in the days following about, Ortega showed a new level of striking. He showed him the southpaw stance. And it's like, well, you go back and watch that fight and it's like, well, what did he actually do out of southpaw? He went into southpaw. He moved along the outside. He jabbed and kicked. That's really it if you actually look at the fight. He dropped Zombie with the spinning elbow. Sure. He hurt him with that. But most of the fight was kind of Ortega just playing an outfighting game against Zombie, which – if you actually look at Zombie's career, almost no one has really done to him other than Aldo, who just fucking destroyed him. I don't want to say I'm not impressed by it. Look, it was a more impressive performance than anything we've seen to Ortega to date. And maybe this is a new Ortega, this elite outfighter, but the guy was out for 2 years, 10 months of which were with a torn ACL. I'm not really buying that he's completely 180'd his game. The reality is Volk, look, I had my skepticisms about him coming up, but, he spent the last 65 minutes in the cage with Jose Aldo and Max Holloway and outstruck them both across 3 fights pretty convincingly. I didn't see anything in the Zombie fight that makes me think this is any different. Could Ortega KO him? Yes. The real question is what happens if Ortega gets on top of him, and something perhaps Ortega could submit him from top position. My issue is, though, I just don't think Ortega has a very good top game. He doesn't go to lockdown positions at all. He wants to go for a guillotine, and that's pretty much it. And so his urgency to find submissions, I think, will actually allow Volk to pretty easily avoid them and get up if he does get taken down. Also, Volk's very strong. I think he's the more well-rounded grappler, if I'm being honest. He's obviously not the better submission grappler, but I just don't think Ortega has much chance to get control here, if you know what I mean. Maybe you want to project him for 1 or 2 takedowns, but not much control, and he's going to look to hit a sub in all likelihood. And just on the outside, it's just I saw Volk win a point fighting match with Max Holloway and Jose Aldo across 3 fights. I'm concerned about the line. I don't really see it. It's one of those fights where it's the line scares me, but in my head, I'm just I don't really see how the line where it is isn't value, to be honest with you.
Have we seen Ortega on top?
Yeah, he's not good. If he can't,
who did he get on top of?
He took down Korean Zombie. He took down Max twice. But he gets on top and he immediately looks to get the arm around the back of your neck to go for a guillotine. And if it's not there, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And so I'm not overly concerned. I mean, I shouldn't say I'm concerned, but I'm not that concerned about it. Yeah. I mean, I'm more or less with you. I think Volk's 70, 75%.
Volk's a good wrestler.
Volk's a very good wrestler.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, most of those guys out of the NZ gym are fairly responsible grapplers. And that's really all I need from him is to not get himself submitted. So yeah, I'm pretty confident in Volk, to be honest. The line scares me, but I feel like my hands are tied here. And so I have a couple units on Volkanovski.
Yeah, and by the way, if you need any other reason to bet Volkanovski, I've got mad respect for anyone who can eat Vegemite. That is the most disgusting thing. When I was in Sydney, I actually was at the executive lounge at the Marriott, and they had these little things of Vegemite, and they put them on toast. Dude, it is like fermented yeast. I don't know what smells or tastes worse than Vegemite. So anybody who could eat Vegemite on a regular basis has got what it takes to be the featherweight champion in the UFC. So if for no other reason than that, you need to bet Volkanovski in this fight. And by the way, John, when he was making his UFC debut, I did ask a couple of people in the community, and by the way, I mean the Twitter MMA community, not like any other community you might be affiliated with. I asked them to actually give me like the 411 on Volkanovski, and they said, "Watch out for this guy. He is going to go very far in the UFC."
Yeah.
Jonah was like, "Shawn, wake up, wake up."
That is way past my bedtime for a work day.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, sorry, we're an hour
I don't know
and
what the
55
hell
minutes.
is going on.
That's all right.
I'm gonna
It's
go.
a Friday. It's a Friday.
It's a Friday.
I'm gonna go take a Molotov cocktail bomb and blow up the internet provider that I have right now.
Now, are you guys both on the West Coast? Are you on the West Coast? Well, wow. Is Shawn on the West Coast? I'll ask you.
I don't think he is.
Oh,
He's in Arizona, I think.
Where is he?
Is he from Arizona?
Okay, so that's this time of year. That's Pacific time.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, well, I got to sign off here.
Yeah. All right, guys. Yep, we're done. This is our longest pod. We're an hour and 55 minutes in. Thank you everyone for coming out and watching us breaking down these fights. It's been a lot of fun. We'll be back next week for the new pay-per-view. I'll announce that later. But yeah, we're signing off now. I am Quinn. You can find me on Twitter at Orthodox1993. John Stargaryan, go check out his podcast, the Club and Sub podcast. You can find him on Twitter at MMA Fox. Joe, are you still doing that DFS pod with
Yeah,
Brett?
so we're doing we do for pay-per-views, we do a pod for RotoWire, myself and Shawn or the DFS sniper and Chris Olsen, and then Brett Apley and I are going to do a special Creating Alpha tomorrow. People seem to like that. We haven't set a time yet, but we'll tweet that out. We may have a special guest on Creating Alpha. Brett doesn't know it yet, but Brett Apley, by the way, is one of the sharpest guys, especially if you guys play DraftKings.
Brett's fantastic.
Brett is definitely, he's a much better analyst than I am. So yeah, we'll do that tomorrow. But my only social media is Twitter. I don't really do Facebook or Instagram or anything like that. So always happy to talk fights. At suntsu. That's pretty much it. Yep.
Awesome. And then last but not least, we got Shawn. He just left. He's on Twitter at Shawn Orr. I love this dude. He's absolutely fantastic. Everything he gives out is for free. And he's a man of the people. So with that being said, yeah, that's it. We'll see you guys next week. We hope you guys catch some bets. Good luck out there.
Peace.